northeastern Indian state of Assam are trying to cope the best they can. This monsoon season has seen the heaviest flooding the state has witnessed in the last few years. Where we're standing right now used to be a road, but as you can see, it's been completely submerged underwater. Around me, there used to be agricultural fields on both sides, and those have been completely destroyed as well. Now, as you can see behind me, there are a few cars which have been marooned on this road, and it's not just a loss to infrastructure that's a concern over here. These floods have also resulted in at least 81 people losing their lives, and over 2 million people have been displaced as well. We've heard of a makeshift relief camp on the other side of this road, and that's where we're trying to go now. But what we discover is that there is no relief camp. Instead, these people have been living along this road for the past week. The floods destroyed their homes. And a few belongings is all that some, like this family, could salvage. Many here are now hoping that help comes their way. Help which could save a very pregnant Jisha Mondal's life.
We don't have anything to eat or drink. I need medicine desperately, but there aren't any clinics here since everything was washed away. Our government needs to help us fast.
Thousands of American tourists finally being airlifted home from Baja in Mexico after weathering one of the strongest hurricanes in living memory.
It's crazy. I've never been in a storm like that before. Category 4 hurricane, Cabo's destroyed, completely destroyed. There's nothing left.
Hurricane Odile battered Los Cabos, destroying everything from the luxury tourist resorts where thousands of people were holidaying to homes and whole neighborhoods. All of this has been lost, he said. Now we have to start over, little by little. Power's down, the airport's been closed for days, and the storm headed north. High winds hit a San Diego airport, and heavy rains hit parched ground, causing flash flooding.
Hailing, storming, wind blowing up to 70 miles an hour winds.
They're preparing for more of the same here in Arizona, where the remnants of Hurricane Odile is heading next. They're only just recovering from last week's flash flooding. In and around Los Angeles, the problem is unseasonably high temperatures. A heat wave is overloading electricity supplies as millions crank up their air conditioners.
Holy moly!
And where there's heat, there's fires. The wildfire season is now well underway, with 15 big blazes burning through the drought-ridden landscape.
The back of the house was already on fire by the time we were leaving, and this whole tree and stuff was on fire. Our tree was on fire, and yeah, it's crazy.
In the town of Weed, more than 100 homes were destroyed, nearly 100 more damaged by the fast-moving fire.
This is my second son's bedroom, right here. That was his bed.
With high temperatures, an historic drought, and warm winds fanning the flames, the extreme weather will likely mean more trouble to come for the southwestern USA.
Wildfires are forcing hundreds of people to evacuate in central California. Authorities near Bass Lake, about 200 miles southeast of San Francisco, say some 1,000 residents have fled hundreds of homes. Fire officials say that fire has damaged or destroyed more than 20 structures, with several homes reportedly lost in one neighborhood. As of early Monday, the fire was 20% contained. More than 100 homes have been evacuated due to a second fire east of Sacramento. To the north in Oregon, a wildfire has scorched 1.5 square miles in the Mount Hood National Forest. The fire is filling the air with smoke and has shut down a stretch of state highway. People calling 911 were even asked not to call about smoke unless they saw flames nearby. About 100 firefighters were battling that fire on Sunday, with more expected throughout the day. Robert Bumstead, Associated Press.
Tallying the damage, the number of homes destroyed by the King Fire is rising tonight as an army of firefighters work to contain the flames.
And late summer storms helped firefighters make some progress on the massive wildfire burning in El Dorado and Placer counties.
But smoke is causing air quality problems for the people living near the fire zone, sending dangerous pollutants into the sky and forcing the cancellation of the Ironman competition at Lake Tahoe.
Today, assessment teams expect to complete their tally of the fire damage so far. We have learned 32 structures are destroyed, including 10 homes. The out-of-control fire is threatening 12,000 other homes. Right now, the burn zone is 82,000 acres in size. That's an area larger than the city of Sacramento. It is still 10% contained. Meanwhile, we just learned Silver Fork Elementary will reopen tomorrow, while Otter Creek Elementary will stay closed. Those students will attend Georgetown School tomorrow.
We have team coverage of the King Fire tonight. We begin with KCRA 3's Mallory Hoff. She's live in El Dorado County with how firefighters are adapting to this changing weather.
The weather has been both a good thing and a bad thing when it comes to fighting this fire. On the one hand, moisture in the air can be a very good thing. On the other hand, poor visibility has created a number of challenges.
In Hugh Bay, landslides have killed 3 people. More than 170,000 people have been affected by the bad weather. In one village, 36 residents were trapped after their houses were flooded. Firefighters rescued all the stranded residents by boat. In Chongqing, landslides triggered by rainstorm damaged a gas pipeline, cutting gas supply to 300,000 people. After 42 hours working around the clock, the pipeline was successfully fixed and gas supply resumed.
Severe tropical storm Feng Guang has arrived in Taiwan, bringing strong winds and torrential rains for much of the island. Just a few hours into the storm, several roads had already become virtual rivers, while waves pounded the coast. Taiwan's Central Weather Bureau issued a typhoon warning for much of the country, predicting as much as 528 millimeters of rain in some areas during the day, and winds of up to 26 meters a second. Despite the severe weather, some tourists in Pingtung ventured out to get a first-hand look at the waves crashing down on the shore.
I watched the news yesterday saying that it's only once in 100 years that a typhoon passes through Taiwan from south to north. I feel very lucky.
The Central Weather Bureau has warned that the storm is expected to head north after it leaves Taiwan.
Jerry Brown has declared a state of emergency for the part of California's wine country hard hit by a large earthquake. The governor issued a proclamation directing state agencies to help respond to the 6.0 magnitude quake that struck early Sunday about 6 miles from the city of Napa. Fire Department Operations Chief John Callanan says the city has exhausted its own resources, extinguishing 6 fires, transporting injured residents, searching homes for anyone who might be trapped, and answering calls about gas leaks, water main breaks, and downed power lines.
Nothing. Nothing.
2 months ago, Olivia Vargas's taps just ran dry.
Nothing.
The groundwater level dropped beyond the reach of her well. Now only air comes out.
And that was it? No water?
Yeah, but
that was it. All finished.
No more water.
And she's not alone.
Seriously, I never thought it was going to happen to me. I was washing dishes, and all of a sudden I just heard this noise, like I said, like air coming out. And here I come outside and watch my pump. There was no water at all.
Hundreds of households are affected. Many can't afford to dig deeper wells and rely on handouts.
There's people that are sick. Me, I'm going through cancer. And it's hard, really hard.
It's the superstorms bringing nations to their knees. The searing sun turning the earth into a tinderbox, leaving the ground cracked by drought, and the crashing waves of rising seas. But it seems this extreme weather isn't random. A UN report says this is climate change, and things are only going to get worse.
We have reasons to believe that if the world doesn't do anything about mitigating the emissions of greenhouse gases, and the extent of climate change continues to increase, then the very social stability of human systems could be at stake.
Today's report is somber reading. Rising temperatures and changing weather could mean more crops fail, so food is scarce. Wildlife will face extinction. Rising sea levels could make water undrinkable, with flooding forcing millions from their homes. And the threat of war will rise as people fight for resources. For some, the recent flooding in the UK is also a consequence. It's led to calls by the former Archbishop of Canterbury and the Energy Secretary to act now. But can wild weather really be blamed on humans?
We can no longer plead ignorance. 30 years ago, the previous generation maybe was damaging our atmosphere, the earth, out of ignorance. Now ignorance is no longer a good excuse. We know.
After years of polluting and burning, today's warning is stark. It's time to slow down and clean up if we want the world to keep up. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
Do you want to give people an overview of geoengineering? For the new people who are listening, we've got a tremendous number of new people who have joined our group in the last few weeks. What is geoengineering all about for the new people a lot of new people who want to know what this is and why it's happening? Can you give us an introduction?
Yeah, again, the term geoengineering, aka chemtrails, the layman's term for what we see happening in the skies, but this is weather modification on a global scale. In fact, these programs are so large and so all-encompassing that all other weather modification programs that go on a smaller regional basis are they're negated by the scope and scale of the global geoengineering programs. And these programs involve a number of aspects. You have the saturation of the atmosphere with various chemical and metal particulates. And there appear to be various purposes and objectives with this saturation. In conjunction with the saturation, which ionizes the atmosphere, it makes the atmosphere more conductive, we have the HAARP facilities, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. These are ionosphere heaters. Many have heard of the HAARP facilities. There's not just one or two or three. We believe there's at least 18 around the globe, possibly with 3 more being built in Antarctica right now. And once the atmosphere is saturated with these particulates, and then you add the ionosphere heaters, the entire weather system globally is virtually being thwarted. There is no natural weather at this point, and we really don't know what sort of climate conditions we would have necessarily if these programs were brought to a halt, and they desperately need to be brought to a halt, because the saturation of the atmosphere is thwarting the hydrological cycle. It's totally disrupting the rain cycle. Again, we have the artificially nucleated snowstorms, which I just mentioned. You can't go from 100 degrees to snow in one day without a whole lot of help. This includes jet stream manipulation with the HAARP facilities, and we are not guessing at this. We have monitoring sources for this signal, and we can see where the signal is most intense, and that's what steers the jet stream. So then you add artificial ice nucleation, which is a chemical nucleation process. They can turn what should have been rain into snow and drop the temperatures of these storm systems by this artificial chemical nucleation. This isn't sci-fi, this is hard science fact. The weather disseminating agencies are trying desperately their task, and they're all owned at the very top, it appears, by the Rothschilds and or other parts of the global elite complex. Rothschilds in particular are ownership of Weather Channel, Weather Central, Weather Underground. And it was imperative that they own these agencies, otherwise there would be great discrepancy in trying to explain away these events.
We are just getting reports of an earthquake in Alaska this hour. I want to go to Jennifer Gray in Atlanta for the latest. What have you learned, Jennifer?
Yeah, Anderson, about a half hour ago, 6.2 magnitude earthquake. This is about 80 miles northwest of Anchorage, pretty far away. This is in a very rural area, so we have reports of light to moderate shaking in Anchorage.
Around 11 o'clock I heard a noise. I listened to it for a while and I thought, it's probably just traffic, and I went back to bed, and then I thought, no, I can't sleep anyways, so I'm going to get up and I'm going to drive over there. Sure enough, Steamboat was having a major eruption. I was flooded with excitement, and I decided I needed to go back and get my coworkers. They needed to experience this.
I heard a knocking at my door, and then I woke up and I saw Rosa was there, and so she said, "Steamboat geysers erupting." What? And Steamboat geysers erupting, you want to go?
It just took me a second to really hit me what she was saying, and at first I actually thought she was joking. And when we got here, it was pretty evident what was going on. We could see the big silhouette from the plume rising in the sky. And so we park the car, and then we run down here, and we get down to the lower platform, and we just start getting
drenched, raining sand and silica.
And it's so loud. There was such a tremendous roar.
It sounds like a freight train is moving through here. So
to talk, we were having to just get close and yell at each other, and it was almost like a little mini party at that moment. We all started
jumping around, yelling, hugging each other. It was just the three of us. It was
incredible. The sounds and the sights. It was incredible.
Steamboat Geyser is the largest active geyser in the world.
Major eruptions can be up to 380 feet high.
So it's 3 times Old Faithful, the length of a football field, or a 30-story building.
And it is entirely unpredictable.
Major eruptions have been anywhere from 4 days to 50 years apart.
And this is only the second major eruption we've had since 2005, and the last one prior to last night's was
July 31st, 2013.
So all summer, the thoughts crossed by my mind, like, man, that would really just make my summer if we had a major steamboat eruption. I've been explaining to visitors how unlikely it is that they'll see a major eruption. Finally, we actually got one, and it's an experience unlike any other that I've witnessed.
parents, here's one to watch out for. There's a mysterious respiratory illness that has affected more than 900 children and teenagers in Colorado just in the past month. Some even have to be put in intensive care.
The name is human enterovirus 68. We have not seen it here in Denver previously, but
what Dr. Mayapan is seeing is how quickly this virus becomes life-threatening, especially in kids with even mild asthma.
Doctors think a virus related to one of those that causes the common cold is creating the outbreak.
What's troubling about this virus is it starts out with common cold-like symptoms, including fever, sneezing, coughing, and body aches, making it difficult to properly diagnose until more serious symptoms show up.
To go from a cold to, being probably minutes away from death, that's kind of scary.
That was the father of Will Cornejo, a teen with asthma who contracted the virus.
He just passed out, had his eyes rolled back in his head, and had to call 911.
And although Colorado is one of the states experiencing the most severe outbreaks, the rest of the U.S. isn't exactly in the clear. Just like the common cold, enterovirus 68 seems to spread easily.
Health officials in 10 other states from North Carolina to Oklahoma have also reported suspected outbreaks.
Some states are reporting 70 new cases a day. Kansas, Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana are among them. But Colorado and Missouri have been hit the hardest.
Because viruses are not treatable with antibiotics, doctors have been giving patients steroids and medication to help improve breathing, as respiratory problems seem to be the most threatening symptom. But the majority of the emphasis is being put on prevention. That includes washing your hands, disinfecting items that are touched often, and avoiding touching your face, especially your eyes and nose. Fortunately, there are no reports of any deaths from this outbreak. For Newsy, I'm Jasmine Bailey.
New details just within the last hour about the deadly Ebola outbreak in West Africa. The head of the Centers for Disease Control is back from his trip to the region, and what he found is disturbing. John Roberts live at CDC headquarters in Atlanta with more. John, what can you tell us?
To say the least, Arthel. Good afternoon to you. CDC Director Tom Frieden had a dire assessment today on the situation in West Africa, calling the Ebola outbreak out of control. Frieden just got back from a week in the region. He traveled to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and as well Guinea. In Monrovia, Liberia, he actually put on some of that personal protective gear and visited a clinic where Ebola patients were being treated. Frieden told a press conference today a global response is needed to build more treatment centers and train more medical personnel, and he said that response is needed now.
Speed is key. The number of cases is increasing so quickly that for every day's delay, it becomes that much harder to stop it.
At the same time, breaking news from SIM USA, the medical missionary organization. You'll remember Dr. Nancy Wright-Pole, a nurse working for SIM, was treated just down the street at Emory for Ebola. SIM reported in just the last few minutes that another one of its doctors working in Liberia has come down with Ebola. What's very troubling is that this doctor is an obstetrician and was not treating Ebola patients, so he contracted it some other way. The doctor is said to be doing well and is currently in isolation. And in other disease news, Japan is dealing with its first outbreak of dengue fever in 70 years. They thought they'd eradicated it after World War II, but 22 people have come down with dengue fever after being bitten by mosquitoes in Yoyogi Park in Tokyo. Centers for Disease Control has not been contacted by Japanese authorities just yet, but we should point out there's also dengue fever here in the United States. There was an outbreak involving 24 people in Martin County, Florida. That's in the Stuart, Florida area last year.
Sean.
A lot of response tonight to the president saying the following, that ISIL is not. Of course, this is the Islamic State, Islamic. Let me play the cut for you.
ISIL is not Islamic. No religion condones the killing of innocents, and the vast majority of ISIL's victims have been Muslim. And ISIL is certainly not a state. It was formerly al-Qaeda's affiliate in Iraq and has taken advantage of sectarian strife and Syria's civil war to gain territory on both sides of the Iraq-Syrian border. It is recognized by no government, nor by the people it subjugates. ISIL is a terrorist organization, pure and simple.
The president proclaimed tonight that America is safer, and then he used the success quote in Yemen and Somalia as examples. I don't think they'd be two examples that I would point to of great success, in my humble opinion. Do you believe America's safer? Do you think what's happening in Yemen and Somalia are examples of a policy that's working that he's going to employ here?
No, absolutely not. Libya is a disaster. Libya is a jihadist wonderland. The jihadists are swimming in the embassy swimming pool in Libya. Syria is a disaster. It's chaotic. Iraq is a disaster, and Iraq is chaotic.
And the vast majority of ISIL's victims have been Muslim. ISIL is not Islamic. No religion condones the killing of innocents.
So within the last 30 minutes, here's what we know. Two FA-18 aircraft dropped 500-pound laser-guided bombs on a mobile artillery unit of ISIS. Obviously, the U.S. government calls it ISIL. That was near Erbil. As you heard Ben Rhodes say, the Deputy National Security Advisor, this is all a part of what the President spoke to the nation about last night, what he authorized. This is about protecting U.S. personnel in northern Iraq. There is an authorization for airstrikes to protect U.S. personnel in Baghdad to go after ISIS. That's it. But the mission being this two-part mission, protect U.S. personnel. There's that simultaneous humanitarian issue that we're dealing with for the Yazidis that are basically trapped in the mountains there, that they've been escaping persecution, what the president called potential act of genocide. But this is also a military mission, and the mission for now, as defined by the United States, and you heard Ben Rhodes say, giving some space to the Kurds. They have a lot of confidence in the Kurds that if they can regroup, of course ISIS put them on the run a little bit, surprisingly so, and it surprised the United States, which is what finally got the president to act on this. But the Kurds are now trying to regroup. Militarily, the United States is hoping they can start pushing back on ISIS and keep them from taking Erbil, because the fear being if ISIS takes Erbil, then all of northern Iraq falls, and maybe there is no way to push them out without any sort of much more extended military effort by the United States. I want to...
In a 55-minute film, he appears only at the end. But his voice resonates all the way to Washington, where tonight a U.S. official tells CNN the intelligence community is analyzing this video, trying to determine this man's origin.
And we're here with the soldiers of Bashar. You can see them now digging their own graves in the very place where they were stationed.
This masked ISIS militant gloats as he presides over the executions of Syrians apparently captured from a military base near Raqqa.
They said that we abandoned the fronts and stopped fighting the kuffar to turn our guns towards the Muslims. They lied. Wallahi, we are the harshest towards the kuffar. and the flames of war are only beginning to intensify.
He speaks perfect English.
This is the end of every Nusayri kafir that we get a hold of.
He could be Arab and educated in the West. He could be American or Canadian.
Clearly, ISIS had a calculated step to be able to put this guy on camera. Why? Because he seems American. The message is aimed at a Western audience, and his intent is to A, project fear to the United States, and B, to instill and give this sense of a projection of power.
The entire video is pure ISIS propaganda, stylishly edited battle scenes featuring the enemy's heavy armor getting blown apart. But a crucial moment comes in the film's final minutes, when the masked ISIS militant and his comrades ready their guns and appear to execute the Syrians who dug their own graves.
If this is a North American, this is quite extraordinary, because it would be the first time that a North American ISIS fighter has committed a war crime on camera.
A U.S. official says it's too early to tell where his dialect is from.
Wallahi, the fighting has just begun.
I thank the gentleman. I rise in opposition of this bill, but I would like to clarify something. We're not trying to scare kids. This president's foreign policy is what's scaring the kids of this country. And that people have said today, why are people believing this? Why are people believing this big internet hoax? Well, it's the same people that told us Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11. Same people that told us Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Same people that told us we were going to be able to use the oil for reconstruction money. Same people that told us that we'd be greeted as liberators, not occupiers. Same people, same president that told us the Taliban is gone. Same president that told us that Poland is our ally 2 days before they pull out. Same president that tells us Iraq is going just great. Same president that tells us the economy is going just great. Same people that told us the tax cut was going to create millions of jobs. Same people that told us that the Medicare program only cost $400 billion when it really cost $540 billion. So please forgive us for not believing what you're saying. Please forgive the students of this country for not believing what you're saying. Not one thing about this war that has been told to the American people or that has been told to these college students has been true. Not one thing. Bremer says we need more troops. The Pentagon says we need more troops. And this president can't get them from the international community. There's only one option left. Let's be honest with the American people. I yield back the balance of my time.
Hello? Yes, I have important information about a group of drug traffickers. I need to speak with someone in a position of authority.
Aha. You're very lucky there's no one with more authority in this office than me. What is your name?
Listen up, Piero Del Rio. Get off your desk, sit in your chair, pick up the red pen to the left of you, and take down everything I say. There are no cameras. Hurry up. I have no time to waste.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be sending you the details of 3 people about to arrive in Europe. Each one is carrying a kilo of drugs. I need you to arrest them and collect the substance. I'll need it for later.
What form are these drugs in? Bars, capsules?
Powder. Hidden in plastic pouches inside their intestines.
Excuse me?
Make sure to be careful when you remove them. The product is very powerful.
The internet. It lets us do so many things, from ordering pizza to browsing endless cat pictures, and now, telepathy? A study by international scientists published in PLOS ONE found a brain could transmit a message to another brain through internet channels, and as if that weren't enough, they did it across continents.
The experiment involved 2 people, one in India, the other in France. The signal is then translated into a code and sent via the internet to the cap of the receiver.
So the mental message of the transmitter was sent through email and then translated back into brain signals in France and delivered through flashes of light in the receiver's peripheral vision to stimulate the brain activity. Not exactly as efficient as a text or a Facebook message, but considering how early the technology is in its development, there are a number of possible applications and implications. The scientists who conducted the study said hyperinteraction, one brain communicating directly with another, will eventually have a profound impact on the social structure of our civilization and raise important ethical issues. And futurists like Michio Kaku have predicted this kind of direct networking of human minds before.
A brain net whereby you would exchange not just information like typing, but also emotions, feelings, because these are also part of the fabric of our thoughts.
Late night host Seth Meyers also took a stab at an application.
The scientists decided to create this technology because it was easier than explaining email to their moms.
This development hasn't really come out of the blue. Last year, a similar study conducted on rats made headlines as well. Researchers at Duke University linked 2 rats' brains and observed that the signals from one of the rats could help the other complete a task and receive a reward. If you were wondering about what message exactly they went through all that work to transmit from India to France, it was just 2 words, hola and ciao. For Newsy, I'm Sebastián Martinez.
There will certainly be worldwide recognition of the fact, for if over 200 million people suddenly depart this earth, leaving their earthly belongings behind, pandemonium and confusion will certainly reign for a time. 1 million conversations will end mid-sentence. Can you imagine that? Mid-sentence. People on television, mid-sentence, they're gone. 1 million phone receivers will suddenly go dead. A woman will reach out for a man's hand in the dark and no one will be there. A man will turn with a laugh to slap his colleague on the back and his hand will move through empty air. A basketball player will make a length of the floor pass to a teammate streaking down court and find there is no one there to receive it and no referee to call out of bounds. And listen to this, friends, this really moves my heart. A mother will pull back the covers in a bassinet, smelling the sweet baby smell one moment, but suddenly kissing empty space and looking into empty blankets. Think of the countless homes where, in the twinkling of an eye, only clothes will remain in the chair where a believer sat moments before. Consider the passengers aboard airplanes with a Christian crew. Many believe that the rapture will result in titanic chaos as Christian auto and bus drivers, train engineers, pilots, and others suddenly vanish. The rapture just may create the greatest freeway gridlock in history. The world will somehow have to come to terms with millions of missing Christians. The ensuing outcry of sorrow, loss, and confusion will make the rapture a well-publicized event, dominating the media probably for weeks and even months. The world will have to recognize the rapture, but too late to prepare for it. Because, you know, friends, they will be left behind.
Jesus Christ is coming back for his church. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 42, "Watch therefore, for you do not know the hour your Lord is coming." I want you to know, church, that Jesus Christ could come this month, or he might come next week, or he could even come...
Number 2, shades of the Cold War here. U.S. jets intercepted a half-dozen Russian military planes flying too close to Alaskan airspace. That happened on Thursday. They didn't enter sovereign territory, but they did come within 55 miles. A U.S. official tells our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr it looks as though the incident was planned to coincide with the Ukraine president's visit to the U.S. and Canada.
Number 3,
Well, the latest propaganda effort to introduce your children to the new totalitarian society comes by way of Disney. They've unveiled a new cartoon series where camera-equipped ladybugs spy on kids and then report back to a central authority. This is predictive programming to get your children to accept the coming drone surveillance police state. We warned you about this way back in 2007. DARPA researchers were figuring out how to inject computer chips into moth pupa and then hatching them into healthy cyborg moths. The hybrid insect microelectromechanical systems project aims to create literal shutterbugs, camera-toting insects whose nerves have grown into their internal silicone chip so that wranglers can control their activities. Unfortunately, the coming drones won't be friendly little ladybugs. They'll be swarms of killer suicide drones intent on killing anyone who doesn't surrender power to the state.
Unobtrusive, pervasive, lethal, micro-air vehicles, enhancing the capabilities of the future warfighter.
The U.S. Air Force is developing tiny unmanned drones that will fly in swarms, crawl like spiders, and even sneak up on unsuspecting targets and execute them with lethal precision. Disney's Shutterbug isn't the only cartoon that's out there acclimating your children to this dystopic future. The TSA's rolled out their own indoctrination cartoon, Stop, Screen, Go. The agency that was set up to purposely obstruct, harass, and train the American public will now condition your children to be compliant with their invasive pat-downs and wholly ineffective nude body scanners. And Disney's also showing that being perpetually tracked via biometrics is just part of another day at the happiest place on Earth. The CIA-connected company has moved beyond just fingerprint scanners at the front gate. Now they have the Magic Band RFID bracelet. It tracks you through your entire trip, working as a door key, a ticket, and a credit card. But most frightening, it creates an online profile for each family member that can be accessed by the costumed characters. So if you were concerned before about your kids talking to strangers, just wait till you find out that Mickey is actually a middle-aged man with no background check who now has access to their name and birth date.
Let me ask you an important question. If your heart stopped beating in the next few minutes, are you at peace with God? Do you know where you'd spend eternity? If not, I would love to have the opportunity to pray with you. I'm not here to condemn anybody, but rather to help you find a new beginning. And I know that comes through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Why don't you pray with me today? Just say, Lord Jesus, I repent of my sins. Come into my heart. Wash me clean. I make you my Lord and Savior. Friend, if you prayed that simple prayer, we believe you got born again. The scripture says, whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. And that's just what you did. I encourage you to keep God first place in your life. Get a Bible, read it every day. You can start in the Gospels, maybe the Gospel of John, and then learn to pray. Prayer is simply talking to God. You don't have to have some kind of big, formal, long words. Just talk to God like you'd talk to a friend. I believe today is going to be a new beginning in your life. Write it down in your Bible. It's going to be a new day of victory for you.